Hello. Welcome to Coaching Your Life with Stef and TaNelle. I am Stef Richthammer, and I am a life and health coach that helps women who feel they don't have time for themselves. I help women set boundaries and unlock their schedules to live their best life.
And I am TaNelle Farnsworth, and I help divorced women that are going through divorce strengthen their relationship with their children and with themselves.
Awesome.
And today, which is awesome, I'm so excited about today because we are talking about boundaries. And another thing that I'm doing in my group, my personal divorce group, is we're going to be talking about boundaries all week. So this is super exciting for me. It's a great start for the week. So
Awesome. I'm super excited to hear all you have to share there.
Yeah, so in my group, it's going to be a little bit different. In the retrospect of everything is you have to set boundaries, but we will be talking about boundaries with your ex, boundaries with your spouse, boundaries with your children, boundaries with your grandparents. Like, it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited.
Awesome.
So I'm just going to jump in and boundaries are really essential to like your health. Like, it's really essential to just like your life, right? To have a healthy life, you have to have boundaries. So it's sometimes a skill though that isn't necessarily learned. Like we have to learn this sometimes, and even into our adulthood. Like, I don't necessarily think that I really knew maybe that I was setting boundaries per se, but we have to definitely like learn this. But so we're going to talk about 10 things today that will help us set better boundaries.
Awesome.
And we need to be able to know and understand what our limits are. These are very, like, to have healthy boundaries means knowing and understanding what your limits are.
Yes.
So number one is name your limits. You cannot set good boundaries if you're unsure of where you stand. So like, for example, if I say I'm a very religious person, I go to church every Sunday, and then all of a sudden I'm not doing what I say I'm doing. Like, this is not a good example of setting your limits, like naming your limits, because if you have good like values, or you're standing what you're going to stand for, then you are doing something different. Like, you have to say what you're going to stand for and do what you're going to stand for. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Because so using religion as an example and saying you're going to church, right? So
Yes.
if you say you're going to go to church and you allow your family to say, oh, but we stayed up too late, or I'm not going to go this week, how does that start to make you feel?
Right. It eats at me. I'm not going to lie.
Right. So if your boundary limits are loose, you allow yourself to start feeling anxiety or stressed or whatever the word you want to put with it. But I think knowing your limits and knowing where you stand is super important.
Yes. So like, another thing to consider is that you need to, what you can tolerate and accept, and what makes you feel uncomfortable or stressed. If there's something that makes you, like, these are all things that help us identify what our limits are. So if there's something that's like stressing you out, there needs to be a boundary. Like, I need something there. If it's like a daily thing that's stressing me out, then you need to set a limit.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about number two. The number two thing is tune into your feelings. This is, I mean, like, really, I think this is hard for humans to do, to really tune into how you feel. Because sometimes, like, as a mom, you just kind of go on and on, like, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're driving kids there, you're picking people up, you're busy, you're making dinner, you're cleaning the house, like you're doing all these things. And sometimes even you're a working mom. And so that even like adds so much more stress, right? And sometimes I don't think that we necessarily as women tune into our feelings like we should.
I agree.
So
I agree, but there's also a societal stigma against your feelings, right? Like you don't get to say you're stressed. You're a stay-at-home mom. You just do what has to be done. Just do it. What's the big deal? You have all the time in the world. You don't get to say you're tired, right? Like, so that was totally sarcastic.
Right. I know.
I think there's such a stigma against about saying how we feel about things if it's a negative emotion, and we want to stand up for ourselves. There's a really special word that we start getting called when we start saying, I don't like that, stop, right? Like all of a sudden names start getting thrown. And so I think tuning into your feelings and being strong enough to say what they are is super powerful in setting boundaries.
Yes, agreed. 100% agreed. I think that's great. And sometimes like resentment usually will come from being taken advantage of. Like if you're thinking about like someone is saying, you know, like, oh, so for example, let's just say you don't want to do something and you do it anyways because that's the kind of person you are. But people are taking advantage of you because they know you're only going to say yes. So setting up boundary and knowing your limits and knowing how you really feel about something, like saying, like, so for example, I probably should have said no to my sister-in-law this weekend. Which I'm kind of stressed out, I'm not going to lie, but it is good. My kids are having a blast, by the way, but like I'm having, so I have 4 extra kids this week. My sister-in-law and her husband went on a cruise and with some of my other family members. So I was kind of like the last person around that could help out. So I felt bad, one, and I just wanted to just say, no, like I don't really want to, but I wanted them to enjoy their cruise. Like I want them to have fun, you know, like I want them to have fun and enjoy this and time, but it's a lot of extra because that's 8 kids that I have, plus on top of what else I do, right? Like I also babysit other people's children on a regular basis. So that might look like I will have like 10 extra kids after school, which is insane.
Right.
But I mean, if I would have really tuned into my feelings about like how I felt, then I probably would have said, no, like it's that it's probably not a good time for me. But being the nice sister-in-law that I am, I decided that I should probably just, it's only a week, it will be just fine. So Steph looks like she's frozen for a minute. So I'm just going to keep going. Number 2 was tuning into your feelings. Number 3 is be direct. Oh, there you are. I was like, Steph's frozen for a minute.
It's so funny. It's my office where I can work. The internet is horrible. So I'm going to try my room and see if it's any better.
Perfect.
Oh, it's so bad.
That's okay.
Oh. Nope. Try me again.
I can hear you. I can see you. You're not frozen.
You disappeared. Okay.
Oh.
Hello. We're back.
Okay, so number 3, I just finished number 2. So number 3 is being direct. So with some people, maintaining healthy boundaries, it doesn't require a direct or clear-cut dialogue. sometimes though, in this case, if people are similar in their communication styles, views, and personalities and general approach to life, they'll approach each other similarly. With others though, this could be different personalities and culture backgrounds, right? And like, this is interesting because like the map we've talked about, like we learned about the map, like your map is different than my map.
Right.
Because like I was born into a different family, you were, you know, like it's kind of interesting, like everybody has different ways of perceiving things. And so this direct could potentially be harmful, or it could be good, right?
Very helpful, right?
Yes.
Well, and so I think, you know, I did a post about this recently about pretty much how to ask for what you want, right? So if you're not being very clear, you don't have to say, stomp your feet, I want you to do the dishes, right? Like that's just going to make people mad.
Right.
But if the boundary is that you are not doing dishes, your child is doing the dishes, then you need to say it so that they understand, so that they will do it the next time as well, right? So your job is the dishes. When dinner is done, we expect you to clear the table, rinse the dishes off, and put them in the dishwasher. I didn't sound mean. I gave clear expectation,
Yes.
and that was it, right? Would you mind, could you please, leaves wiggle room. And if you're mean when you say it, people don't really want to.
They don't want to do it.
Right. So, how you say things and being very, like, that was direct. It wasn't rude, I don't think.
No.
But when you start to use guilt, then people don't really, they're not helping you out for the right reasons either, right? So they might help you, but they're not going to want to help you. Does that make sense?
Yes. I totally agree with that 100%, because if you're being kind of nasty and then no one wants to help you because you're being kind of biznatchy, but
that word.
Yes. But I feel like if you set clear boundaries and you're direct and you say, I need this to be done, and then ask nicely, like, can you please do this for me? Then that's a great way to say, hey, can you please do this for me? Instead of being, and do this now, get it done. Like, right. Which one sounds better? So right. Totally agree. Number 4 is give yourself permission. This is hard, I think, for women to do.
It is.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Because many times we don't even, we just do for others.
It's so true.
But like a lot of times fear and guilt and self-doubt are big pitfalls. So we need to remember that we might feel guilty about speaking up. Like for example, I told my husband I hated doing the dishes, period. So I said, it would be so nice if you could do the dishes once a week for me. And that set day is Wednesday. So, and I had to give myself permission because I was taking on like a lot. I mean, like we have 6 people in our family. So, I mean, I could totally give those to my kids and tell them to do it, but they have a lot of other chores. So I feel like dishes is just one that I like to just do. One, I know they're getting clean. We have a dishwasher, but I like to rinse everything off and then put it in. And anyways, I know it's getting done right when I do it. So giving yourself permission is huge, and it will help you not get taken advantage and feel drained, because if you can just say, I need a little bit of help, please help me here. And you're giving yourself permission when you're asking for someone to help you.
It is really hard. It is, but it also is so freeing once you figure out how to do it and feel good about it.
Right. Number 5 is practice self-awareness. So it's all about like honoring your feelings and honoring yourself. And we've already talked about feelings. So it's kind of it kind of ties in together. But if you notice yourself slipping and not sustaining your boundaries, you need to ask yourself, like, what changed? What am I doing? Or what is the other person doing? What's the situation? What's making me resent or be stressed? So those are all like, what do I have control over? So
I think this is another one that's really tough for people. And this is part of why setting boundaries is so hard, because there's a lot of pieces to it that don't come naturally, or again, there's a stigma against it, right? So remembering to be self-aware and stop and think, why am I feeling this way? Why is this different? What is making the change? That honestly takes effort and thought, right? First, you have to think to stop. First, you have to notice the emotion and the thought. Then you have to, think it through. Then you have to make action on it, which is really hard for so many people.
right.
And people think they don't have time. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just deal with it. It's fine. Well, if you just deal with it, then not only are you not standing up for yourself with your own boundaries,
Yes.
but you're also telling other people it's okay for them
to walk all over you.
Yes, to ignore your boundaries.
Yeah. Yes. I agree 100%. It's very important that we need, one thing slips. This is why I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. You don't really learn how to set boundaries. Like, it's not something that is like, maybe it is taught. I don't necessarily think it was taught to me on how to set boundaries. Do you think you were taught how to set boundaries? Not until I was like in college. I don't think I figured it out.
No, I think it's all because boundaries is so broad, right? So if somebody said, do you know how to create a calendar or schedule yourself into your calendar? I could say, for sure. Do I know how to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to drive you to your friend's house right now because I need to go to the gym?
Right.
At 42, I'm figuring it out. So
yeah, for reals. Well, that like kind of leads right into our next one. So consider your past and your present. Like, what happened in your past? What happened? Like, what's happening now? Like, how you were raised? Like, your family dynamics. Like, obviously, like my husband and I were raised completely different, and so like bringing that together, you have to set boundaries, which it's a lot of learned. You have to learn, and you have to focus on each other and letting yourself, like the emotions, it can get pretty intense sometimes, I think. But if you're in a healthy relationship where you can set boundaries and you can know, like, hey, this is what we did in like my family and I didn't like that, but I would like to do something different, and you stick to that, then you will be amazing.
yes. Well, also then him saying, well, this worked in my family, so I would like to do this, right?
Yeah.
So when you're in a marriage or working
like
relationships,
a business partner, anything.
Yeah, it can be the same. You have to be willing to stand up and be direct and clear, but you also have to be willing to stop and listen and understand their boundaries.
Yes, agreed, definitely.
Yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah, it's like a give and take. You have to like, it's healthy though, like like it's a healthy give and take, I feel like.
I agree.
Number 7 is make self-care a priority, which we've talked about self-care so many times. So like, this is no surprise, right?
It's so true.
Yeah, so it's like giving yourself permission to put yourself first. So you already talked about giving yourself permission, but like this is like so much bigger, because giving yourself permission to do something for yourself, wow, right?
Well, and I almost feel like this should be number one, right? Because if you're not giving yourself permission to put yourself first, you're probably not setting the limits for yourself.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, that in and of itself is so powerful when you think about that. I have to be the important one to set the boundary for myself.
Right.
So I am happy. So things I want to get done can get done. And so I'm not spending my time on things that don't bring me joy. Now, do dishes bring you joy? Probably not. But
I don't give anybody joy. It's true. Like, we need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Well, one, I think that when we do take care of ourselves, we are better. We're better at taking care of others. We're better at taking care of our children. We're happier, for one. I mean, we have more energy. We have better positive outlook on things when we are taking care of ourselves.
So true.
So number 8 is seek support, which, yes, like these are all like all these things that we've already talked about, which is great. So if you are having a hard time with boundaries, seek some support. And it could be any support, like your husband. Sometimes my children are great supports, a friend, a coach, a counselor, a church member, like anybody can be a great support as long as you trust them. There has to be trust.
And there has to be trust and willingness to let them stand up for you too. Yes. Especially when you want to give, right? So
when you're weak.
and I mean, that's what accountability is all about, right? But seeking support for boundaries for your spouse, like we were talking about before, you know, when your child is doing something that you have said again and again and again, that's not cool. We're not doing that. That's not okay. Your spouse should know your boundaries. We talked about that, right? Like,
yes,
your spouse should know your boundaries, and they should stand up for you, and you should let them.
Yes.
You know, like, I think sometimes, again, we feel like we have to do it all, and we are super women, and we are super women. And the fact that we are asking for support makes us that much stronger.
Agreed.
And taking the support.
Yes. And as women, I think that sometimes we are looked upon as weak. So if you can ask for some support, then, I mean, I feel like that's just such a powerful thing. And then they're like, oh, wow. Like, and maybe it might be like kind of a weak thing to say, like, hey, I need your help. But I think men see that and be like, oh, they need my help. You know, like, I can help you with that. Like, you know, like, and they're willing to help you as long as you say in a kind, loving manner.
Direct way. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
See, it all comes back. It all folds in together.
It does. It all like intertwines. It's so good. So number 9 is be assertive. Of course, we know that it's not enough to create boundaries. We actually have to follow through. So even though we know, like, people aren't like mind readers, because that's often, sometimes I think my kids should just read my mind and know what I want, right?
So true.
They actually can't. So you have to tell people what you want. Like, and you have a great example of this. You just did a video about this, about your husband, maybe.
Well, I was thinking of one. I just had a conversation with my son, so you'll have to remind me what the other one was.
Maybe.
But my son goes to play games every Friday. The local game place has a night where they can come and hang out for a bunch of hours, and with a whole bunch of other guys that play the same, or girls that play the same game. And it's from 4 to 9, and he used to want to be dropped off at 4. Which was awesome.
Not cool anymore.
No, not cool to be the first one. So now he wants to go at 6 or like 5:30. And I have scheduled in and placed a boundary around my workouts so that I get there. My class is from 5 to 6. So he was really bummed that I wasn't going to take him until about 6:15, when I left the gym right as the class ended, picked him up and brought him to the place. But he's like, Mom, my friends are going to leave. They got there early today. I was like, buddy, I can drop you off before my class, or I can drop you off after my class.
Look at you.
I have missed my class too many times where I feel bad about it, and I feel bad about myself and beat myself up. So you just have to tell me if you want to go beforehand. I'm happy to drive you before, but I will be at the gym at 10 to 5. I will leave the gym at 6 o'clock. And that's like, it's hard because you don't want them to be disappointed, but you know what? First of all, I'm teaching him planning. And secondly, he's learning a little bit of disappointment, which is not going to hurt.
Yes, so true.
And that I'm important.
Yes, and mom's important, that they need their self-care.
Exactly. But that felt very assertive to me to have that conversation with him. But he was like, oh, all right. So here I was like building it up and all nervous about it. And he was like, oh, that's the way it's going to be. Okay.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah,
you have a very chill son, I feel like, though. Like and my children are the same. Yeah. But I also feel like that's because we have raised, like, we've set boundaries, we've taught them,
I have set boundaries. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
So I love it. So number 10 is start small. So communicating your boundaries takes practice, obviously. You can't just like, I'm doing this and this and this and this, and you will probably fail and people will still walk all over you.
Yes.
So just start small. It's a new skill. You have to practice it. Setting boundaries, like, can be kind of scary. Like you said, you were nervous with talking to your son. And so you just start with small steps and just build. Setting boundaries takes courage, practice, and support. So you need all the things that we talked about, and just remember that you can master this skill.
Yes. And I think though we laid out the 10, I think it's important to keep in mind that they don't have to go in that order.
Right.
That if self-care has to come first, to know that you are important enough. I mean, just that is self-care, knowing you are important enough to set boundaries for whatever it is, going to church, going to the gym, waking up early. Honestly, that's a boundary for myself, to set my alarm and to know I am important enough to me to wake up early so that I have the time to myself to do my reading, to do my meditating, right? Like all those things. And so as you learn your self-care and your self-love, and then you start to set your limits, and then you talk to somebody for support, right? So it doesn't have to go in the order that we said, but I think it's important to be aware of all of them.
Right. I think so too, yeah. So I'm just going to name them all off again. Perfect. So then we can remember, so you don't have to go through the whole video and remember. So number 1, name your limits. Number 2, tune into your feelings. 3, be direct. 4, give yourself permission. 5, practice self-awareness. 6, consider your past and your present. 7, make self-care a priority. 8, seek support. 9, be assertive. 10, start small. So
10 should probably be number 1.
No, start small. Number 10, 2, self-care.
So true. This is awesome. I mean, what a great topic. I think we should touch on this a couple more times in the next few months, because it's so easy to forget, because we're used to doing everything on our own, right? So it's easier to just say, I'm going to do it.
We're super women. Woo!
And we are, but one of the superpowers is asking for help and setting boundaries.
Yes. Agreed. I love it. I'm really just excited about boundaries, like right now. I don't know. It's like probably because I'm doing that huge week-long boundaries, but
I'm excited. For you.
I'm really excited too. I am going to try to share some onto my personal page as well, to share some examples or some things that I'm teaching, but I will keep you guys all informed.
Yay!
Yes.
All right,
It
awesome.
will be awesome. Anyways, thank you for coming and joining us today. And I hope you all have today is March 1st. So
Today is March 1st.
yeah, and it snowed here where I was like, happy March. It snowed last night.
Aw.
I was like, bleh. I'm like ready
Yeah,
for spring. I was
me
like,
too.
March, it should be nice, but we're still getting snow. So
I went to the beach today in hopes that it would be spring. It was not.
just windy, probably windy and a little cold.
It was so windy, and we just turned right around and then wished we hadn't turned around because the wind was at our back, and then it was at our face. We're like, oh.
Walk sideways.
It was pretty bad, but we tried. It's one of our boundaries as a couple. We want to get to the beach once a week. We live so close
Hey.
to the beach and we never go, or we don't go as often as we used to. So now we, even though it was all of 5 minutes walking on the beach today, we got there.
You got there. Do you take Drew with you?
He sat in the car today.
It's too windy for him.
He was like, you guys are crazy. It's freezing outside.
Yeah.
But
That's okay. At least he drove with you, like, right? At least he was in the car with you.
Exactly.
It's a win.
But ideally, that would be time just for us.
Yeah, that's super nice.
Yeah, it's important.
All right, I'll let you go because I know you're kneeling on the ground.
I am. I'm sorry about that. What's so funny is we can't figure out why the internet is so bad in that room, because the thing is in that room.
Yeah, the modem is right there. It's all
So
good.
weird. Anyway,
Well,
thank you
thanks
again
making
for
it work
joining
tonight.
us.
Yes.
Yes.
It works good. So
I'm glad it worked.
you guys have a wonderful night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.